Hey, seventh grade families. I thought I'd reach out and send a more personal note as to what we did in class this week. We actually talked about that country right there, China. And actually, we're starting to talk about, where is it? For crying out loud. I can't even do this. North Korea. So, you can tell where this is going. So, I hope everyone had an easy and restful Passover. I just wanted to give you guys a brief weekend review of what we were talking about. Before Passover break, the students talked about COVID-19, pandemics, and the history of pandemics. We also looked at how the global market and globalization actually affects all of this and how all of this affects globalization. Well, in getting back from Passover break, we decided to take a look at modern China and North Korea, or modern China and North Korea. So one of the things we started off with is we looked at how China went from being hundreds of years of dynasties to now all of a sudden being overthrown and being created as a democratic people's republic. And then in the 1940s, witnessing a civil war after World War II and a Japanese invasion of the country, the mainland of China. And then the actual formation in 1949, the People's Republic of China by Mao Zedong. We looked at how the government was set up and how Mao Zedong, in his great leap forward, tried to take a civilian population of farmers and try to all of a sudden make them into industrial workers, and how that worked. It didn't work. We looked at how millions were killed in famine, especially those who are unable to even create these Bessemer created style irons to make it's just a lot. And it didn't work out at all. And so one of the things we looked at is how Mao Zedong tried to make this great leap forward great and try to bring China into a more industrial world, but also how it failed to really bring China into a modern economy and to a modern world itself. Now, we also looked at a group of people called the Red Guards, the youth who were trying to basically kill off older people and older generations of Chinese and destroying all the old traditional principles and artwork and culture and customs of the Chinese. We looked at why the government would want to do something like this and how the youth are really easily influenced, which is why you send them to school with us. No, but what we really looked at was how the idea of getting out with the old, in with the new, and China becoming a more modern country. That was the objective. And how the Red Guards, told by the Chinese government, were told, you can lead the way, the youth should be in charge, and not only that, but the state will help protect you, right? The state will help protect everybody. That's kind of what they thought. We also looked at how during this cultural revolution, we see a complete change in China trying to go from, again, a nation of farmers to more civilized and industrial areas and cities. One of the things we also looked at is in 1972, Richard Nixon opened the door to China, being the first president to visit China. And in doing so, he basically said to China, America is willing to trade with you, and we open the door for your policies to come on in. And that then began the trade between the United States and China. And now everything's made in China. And one of the things we're looking at is that a problem? In recent times, like literally within the past month or so, we're trying to figure out if that really is a problem and how can we address that. We also looked at in the June 4th, 1989 incident at Tiananmen Square, where student protesters were filmed on live television in 1989 by news networks, the first time we had 24-hour news networks in the 80s, and how these protests for pro-democracy and for more education by the students, for the students, would help then kind of bridge the gap between old China and new China. Whereas the students who were going to school realized they were behind economically, socially, and politically, and they wanted more pro-Western open democracy and more political freedoms, and how that resistance was just crushed by the Chinese government. The students watched two videos about this, one from CNN and one from The Guardian, where they looked at how the Tiananmen Square protests were massive on a world scale and how it also showed the world what was really going on in China. We also watched a short video on the Tank Man. Who was the Tank Man? We don't know who the Tank Man is. We don't know what happened to the Tank Man. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, and how that was really only 30-something years ago. Well, the kids next week are going to read a little bit about North Korea and the history of North Korea and how North Korea became the kind of country it is today, especially in understanding the form of Juche. If you don't know what Juche is, You might want to ask your kids. Hope everyone has a great weekend, an easy Shabbat, and we'll see you guys next week, and enjoy yourselves. Be good.